Living in harmony with nature isn't just a priority in California, it's a way of life. Californians from all across the state value doing their part for the planet, and they know how to have fun doing it. Today's guest is Pattie Gonia, a critically acclaimed drag queen, musician, environmentalist, and influencer who advocates for inclusivity and diversity in the great outdoors. She has almost 1 million followers on social media, where you can catch her hiking, climbing, sailing, and surfing, all while in drag and wearing towering heels that add to the general awesomeness of her presence. Pattie, welcome to California Now.
Hey everyone, excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So let's start with Pattie. Who is she? Describe her for us.
Who is she? I feel like I'm still figuring her out every day, as are all of us. But she was born on a backpacking trip 6 years ago when I was backpacking in Colorado. Kind of was going through a quarter life crisis. I'm from Nebraska originally, which is a really complex place to be queer and to be raised queer. And while I was out of the closet when Patty was born, wearing heels for the first time in the outdoors and strutting on that backpacking trip really felt like my real coming out. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about the femininity that I had left behind. And it taught me a lot about being a friend to Mother Nature and really falling in love with this planet and realizing that there's a lot of work to do to advocate for it. So that's where she was born. But now, we are a 6-year-old. So we are entering elementary school. Here we are, and we are figuring it out.
That's great. That's great. I mean, let's talk about the heels for a minute. I mean, you're known for wearing these high heels when you do all these outdoor activities like hiking and climbing. Not exactly the recommended footwear, maybe, but you make it work. So tell us about them. I mean, why the heels?
Why the heels? I ask myself that question every single day. They don't make sense, and yet they do. I feel like I signed up for this when I decided to be an outdoor drag queen. Didn't realize my ankles were in for a world of hurt. But it's fun. It's a fun challenge. It's something that unleashes my femininity in a way that I feel like I really enjoy, and it's silly and it's engaging, and it keeps me on my toes, literally. So yeah, I have been lucky enough to wear these heels all over California, specifically a lot in Yosemite National Park, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I think that the biggest feat I've ever done in heels is climbing the walls of Yosemite in these 6-inch high heels. So
Wow, so much, so much,
R.I.P.
so much more difficult. I mean, like it's kind of like Ginger Rogers saying, like, "Oh, I do everything that Fred Astaire does, but backwards and in heels." It's like that much
Yeah,
harder.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like every single person who goes to a drag show should have to walk a mile in high heels first to realize truly the feat that they are seeing in front of their face, that these drag queens don't just trip over themselves and fall.
Right, right, right. You're also known for your carabiner earrings. Tell us about those.
I just think that like there's this word in fashion called camp, which means just ridiculous for a purpose. And
Mhm.
I really feel like I'm trying to do camp on camp by taking a lot of different outdoor gear and making it campy, making it queer, kind of taking these really masculine items that you might find in the outdoors and turning them into something that's super feminine and super fun. And so, yeah, I have these carabiner earrings on that are like 2 carabiners long, and my earlobes hurt more than my ankles. So here we are.
Oh gosh. And you also put a lot of your outfit and makeup inspiration, you pull a lot of that inspiration from nature, like
Mm,
particularly birds, it seems. Like you've used the
mm.
Anna's hummingbird, strawberry finch, and the blue jay as inspiration for looks. So is it safe to say that you're a birder?
I am a birder, and I feel like my birding passion grew so much being, from Nebraska and seeing all these sandhill cranes take massive migrations across the country. And I got really into birds because birds are one of the biggest signs that climate change is here. Their migration patterns are changing, their mating patterns are changing. So many species are popping on the endangered species list or the extinct species list. So I think that birds are really interesting lens on climate change. But also, birds are just the drag queens of the sky. They are quite literally drag queens. The males are more colorful than the females all the time. The males are the ones doing the crazy mating dances. So I really emotionally relate to birds as well.
That's great. How did environmental activism become Patagonia's mission? I mean, tell us how you came into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what would surprise people is that my environmentalism is really rooted uh, in just realism. I am not someone who's like, the planet's burning, and so let's just dance. I'm also not someone that's like, the planet's burning, let's do nothing about it. I think I am reminded every day by the environmental activists in my life, the people that I'm learning from, that environmentalism is a choice, and it's a choice to take action. Because if we do nothing, then other people who care less about this planet are making those decisions for us.
Mm.
So I think I'm reminded that inaction is an active choice, and doing nothing is doing something. And so I want to do something about it. And one of the biggest pieces I found that's missing in the environmental movement is the power of community and creating a culture around environmentalism that is fun and is a place where people can take collective action. I think people want to make a difference. They often don't know how or where to start.
Mm.
So a lot of my work isn't just giving people opportunities to go out and connect with nature on a group hike or go out and do a trash pickup or, use their voice to vote and vote for politicians and political change that is supporting our environment. But moreover, it's really simpler. It's saying, hey, the best environmental work that every single person can do takes who they are and their unique identity and what they're good at, the skills that they have that are really unique, and applying them to unique environments, local environments that they care about, often in their own backyards. So for me, that means, taking my identity as a queer person and my talent of drag and community building and doing Pattie. But for other people, it might not look like, being an accountant and quitting accounting and becoming someone who's always protesting. It means no, there are definitely environmental nonprofits that could use some pro bono accounting. Or you have a big passion in baking? Cool. Guess what the most important person at every single environmental protest is? The person who brings the cookies. So I think we need to reframe how we're thinking about activism, reframe how we're looking at taking action and making it accessible for people and making it a space that feels like it has a community behind it and has the power of collective action.
That's really great. I mean, that's a wonderful way of looking at it. It's also kind of like a way of looking at diversity and inclusivity in activism. Bring your whole self and bring your talents, and you can contribute in your own way.
Yeah, I mean, so a metaphor that really makes sense to me is, like who here has heard of like this phrase of, wow, we're operating like a well-oiled machine, right? Well, what if instead we said, wow, we're operating and thriving as a well-nurtured meadow instead? I
Hmm.
think that makes a lot more sense because I don't emotionally relate to being a cog in a machine like capitalism wants me to be. I relate to being a unique species in the meadow that does what I do, that nothing else in the meadow can do to support the meadow's collective growth. Darwin never said survival of the fittest. It's not about strength. What he actually said was survival of the fit. How something contributes to the collective means that the collective will survive. And I think that changes everything. And I think that that's a really great invitation for our activism, for the way we live just as humans, no matter what we want to fight for in this world, is how can we see our uniqueness as not a hindrance, but the greatest strength we have?
Right. And I love that like thriving meadow metaphor because it kind of implies that everything is kind of like working and in balance and it's just kind of
Yeah,
everything complements each other.
it is. Yeah, I mean, that's Mother Nature has had a lot of time to figure out leadership. And I think there's a lot that we as humans can learn from Mother Nature as a leader.
Yeah. What are some of the major climate issues at the forefront of your agenda right now?
Ooh, I'll focus on one because I think it's something that everyone can relate to. But I think one of the biggest issues facing us right now when it comes to climate is our, by design, disconnection from nature. Capitalism in the world that be knows that if we can disconnect people from nature, well, they're not going to fight for it because you fight for what you love, right? So
Mm.
if you've fallen in love with nature, it's far harder to abuse it, to use it. And I think right now, a lot of culture or capitalism would have us believe that nature is a resource and not a relative. And so I think there's a really beautiful opportunity for all of us to get to fall in love again with nature and get to see nature as something we're not apart from, but something that we're a part of. That feels important. And I do feel like, a lot of the people that I'm learning from are a lot of people that call California home and that really do a lot of work in the outdoors in California in completely unexpected ways. California as a landscape is such a beautiful example of what could be right when it comes to climate, to
Mm.
connecting people to nature, because there's such a huge variety of nature And I'm loving seeing national parks in California, national recreation sites, like diversify who is coming to visit those places because that work is so important because again, we need that reconnection to nature. And if we can connect people to it, well, then we're going to have a different world. So I really think the world of people in the National Park Service, people within these structures with different natural environments in California that are really doing that work to diversify those spaces. And I think it's really misunderstood why, right? You
Hmm.
know, we often think like, well, there's no barrier to entry in the outdoors. Anyone can just go walk outside. No, there are economic barriers. It's really hard to be the only queer person or person of color outdoors. It's really hard if you didn't learn the skills as a kid. It's really hard if you don't have transportation. So I really think that like the work that I do is centering around diversifying the outdoors for that purpose, right? For the greater purpose of environmentalism, connecting people to this thing.
I mean, why
Mm.
do you think her messages about sustainability resonated like so
Mm.
profoundly?
You know, I think that why it resonated is because I think people are finally realizing that environmental justice and social justice are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other. And what I mean in that is saying that there are amazing skills that queer people, BIPOC people have learned through different human rights movements to gain those rights that they are now applying to having more rights for our planet. And I think that that is powerful and beautiful, and we are only just beginning to see that power. And I also think that power has always been there. I think people that live at marginalizations know what it's like to be used or seen as less than, and that is how nature is feeling right now. I also think that like there are so many queer people in the outdoors. You know, we often think about cities like LA or San Francisco as these queer meccas, and they are, but there are so many different queer people in far off places. And, you know, on the backside of the Sierras in Bishop, California, there are so many queer people living and thriving and really changing science spaces, environmental spaces, outdoor spaces. And that I think is something that's really been looked over. And that's the California that I love, is the California that is a little bit more that unseen, a little bit more that lost in the forest. And I'm so thankful to have found queer community there too.
Many of your most influential moments have come from California. What is it about California, do you think, that makes it a critical place for Patty and her mission?
Good question. You know, for me, California has like one of my favorite cities in the world, in San Francisco. I love it. I love how queer it is. I love that queerness is written into its history, its past, present, and future. And also, I love California because of the incredible variety of nature that I've been so lucky to get to know. And, you know, more than just California, these are the territories of hundreds of tribes who still call those lands home. And I've been really lucky to get to know some incredible indigenous people from California that are really truly keeping indigenous spirit and thought and practices alive in California, especially through their conservation work, especially through their fire practice work. So I think that California is a really interesting case study of, again, so much of the potential that we hold to get it right, to move forward, to really think about what does it look like to connect people to this planet? And what does it look like to really look at a lot of environmental impact and not only stop that, but also to add a beautiful new bounty of prospering nature too. So I think that I am really fascinated about that stuff.
Mhm.
Also, some of my favorite people live in California, some of my best friends. And so for me, California is it always puts a smile on my face. And I feel very lucky to have gotten to do a lot of work as Patty, but also lived a lot of my life outside of drag there.
In addition to San Francisco, what are some of the places in California that are most special to you?
Oh my gosh, these are such good questions. I think a lot about the backside of the Sierras, the Bishop, California area. I mean, the Sierras are one of the most beautiful places I've ever backpacked in my life. So I feel really lucky to have spent time there. And then I spent a lot of time up in Shasta, which has been lovely, because I live in Bend, Oregon. So it's really easy for me to pop down. And Bend, Oregon is affectionately called Bend, California here in Bend because so many people from California live here or travel between both places. So I love that. Also, I love the Truckee area. I got to help throw Pride in Truckee this year, and it was so beautiful to see rural queer people show up and a lot of rural allies show up. And I think Truckee has really got it going on, and I love that whole area too. So can't go wrong.
You mentioned the Pride Festival at Yosemite National Park. That was one of the first events you organized that really took off in a big way. How did that start? How did that get started in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot express enough gratitude for the queer park rangers that are in Yosemite National Park, especially thinking about the queer park rangers who were organizing different, like smaller pride events before we made it more of a collective thing that we were going to do all together. So yeah, I just have so much respect for the queer park rangers, and I think how it really happened was through a collective effort.
Has it kind of like led to other events, in other areas of the state as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's prides in other national parks across the state that other queer people are organizing, which has felt beautiful. We did a pride event again in Bishop, Eastern Sierra Pride, which was really beautiful and really fun. You have people that work in the National Park Service, State Park Service, marching in pride parades in major cities like San Francisco. So yeah, I mean, it's pride is happening everywhere. And if you think it's a place that probably wouldn't have a pride, they probably do have a pride. Like Mariposa, which is a really small town right outside of Yosemite, has a beautiful pride celebration every year. So yeah, I think a lot about the magic of that and a lot about the magic of just accepting everyone for who they are and what they can bring, and again, what that can provide to the meadow.
So what's Patty's next Golden State Eco Adventure?
Oh my gosh. You know, I feel very lucky to get to do this work of, fighting for our environment, connecting people to our environment. I feel like I've been really grateful this past year to spend more time in nature, and I want to keep that up. More time in nature for myself. So I have some backpacking trips I really want to do in California, especially in the Sierras. I feel like I've just began my exploration of the Sierras, and there's lots of backpacking for me to do. But also, because I, have turned 30 years old and Lycra has just stuck to my body, I now cycle. So there's lots of biking to be done in California as well.
Any
So
particular routes or areas that you want to discover?
yeah, I mean, everything around San Francisco is just so delicious to me. I also am potentially thinking about doing the AIDS Life Cycle race, or a ride from San Francisco, all the way down to LA. Actually, the news just broke that this year is their last year that they are doing the ride.
Hmm.
So I'm going to try to clear my schedule enough to do it, but it's right over the time, we're doing other things like Pride in Yosemite again. So turns out when you're gay, you can't do it all.
Now, looking also ahead to other things, you worked on a TV series called Go Gently with your friend Bonnie Wright, who's famous for playing Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter films. How was that experience?
Bonnie is unbelievable. I mean, I feel like I ended filming that series with a real friend, and that is so rare. So I just can't give enough love to Bonnie. She also dubbed me an honorary member of the Weasley family. So as a ginger, that's the highest honor I feel like I could receive.
Where are you?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
You look so great.
You look fabulous.
Yes, it's good to see you. What do you think? Ready to eat some cake?
I think we're so ready to eat cake.
I think we both look ready.
It was such an incredible experience. And in this TV show, we go on this road trip from LA in California all the way up to Oregon, and we're stopping along the way and meeting with people working on unique environmental solutions, from scientists to indigenous leaders to researchers to community organizers and to everyday humans that are doing what they can to make an impact. And I think, when we think about environmentalism, we can often get stuck on the problems, but I think it's so important to also acknowledge the people that are working on the solutions. And so this show, Go Gently, is all about how all of us can live our lives in ways that make an impact and oftentimes see these small impacts snowball every day. And it's also about, like, yeah, again, showing that, like, these people, their uniqueness, the things that they thought could never make an impact are the very things that are making an impact. So
Well, like, what were some of the most memorable moments when you were
Oh
filming?
my gosh. Well, so we took electric vehicles, so almost running out of electricity many times was a thing. Like crazy weather events. Like we were, started filming the TV show when California just decided to rain for a straight month. So we survived the rain, and so did my wigs somehow. But I mean, it was also really important, right, to see these environmental impacts. I mean, the
Right.
crazy torrential rains we were having, it's a sign of climate change. So it was very important. It felt very, very meaningful. I also tried to surf, which was a giant fail. There were so many things that
In
people,
heels? I hope not.
well, in heels.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, and I have surfed in heels before, and I put a hole through the middle of a surfboard. So
Oh
yeah.
God. I mean, without spoiling, too much, can you share a little bit about some of the places you visited,
Oh
on the
my
California leg of your journey?
goodness. Well, we started in LA and spent a lot of time like just creeping up the coast. So we did LA, we did Big Sur, we did, a lot around the San Francisco area. We did a lot in Northern California, which Northern California and the coast up there blew my mind. Lots of like interesting environmental people that we met, especially even in Morro Bay, that's a bay that's facing a lot of different environmental impacts and potential environmental repair. So it was amazing. Yeah, I would say that like Big Sur was one of the most beautiful stops, but also too short. Like I feel like you can never spend enough time in Big Sur. California really surprised me. I think again, meeting the people, people are always better to me than the place. I'm like, Mother Nature is so beautiful, but it's about the people you share it with that really matters to me. So I feel like we got to share it with really special people.
Yeah, no, it sounds really great. So when does the show premiere and how can we watch it?
Sometime in the next year. It just got bought by a streaming platform in Europe that I cannot share, but as a good one. And so we'll see what happens here in America. And yeah, I really can't wait for people to watch it. It's going to be episodes, so there's so many episodes and things that happen, and I won't totally spoil it, but I will say that my world of drag and Bonnie's worlds combine in a very hilarious way in one of the episodes. Um,
Interesting.
and then, yeah, we also just spend an incredible episode out in the Channel Islands, right off the coast, and that episode will blow your mind. Because there's so much happening at an environmental level in our oceans that
Yeah, yeah. Well, it
don't
sounds so great. So
understand.
stay
I don't
tuned,
even pay
basically, right?
attention.
Stay tuned to find out
Yeah,
when and
stay
how.
tuned. Stay
Okay.
tuned.
All right, great. You're shifting gears a little bit. One of your other recent initiatives is the Outdoorist Oath. What's that
Mhm.
about?
Yeah, so the Outdoorist Oath is a community-led organization that is aimed at getting diverse people outdoors and educating allies on how to support diverse people getting outdoors. And I think it's, again, some of the most critical work in the outdoors right now because, again, if we can connect people to the outdoors, they fight for what they love. So let's get people outside. Let's get people to know how beautiful and how worth it these places are uh, to fight for and to advocate for and to play our part. I don't think it's about saving the planet. If anything, that feels kind of selfish and very human to be like, we're going to save it. No, it's kind of about repairing and then getting out of the way and letting
Mhm.
nature do its thing. I mean, I think one of the most powerful things in nature is just how ready nature is to heal. So this organization is really grounded in that. It's grounded in work for planet, work around inclusion, and work around redefining adventure as well. I mean, I don't know about any of the listeners here, but the outdoors that I was raised with was very much a unless you're masculine, GTFO. Unless you like can rough it and tough it, like get out. And I think we're really trying to redefine what adventure looks and feels like because it looks different for everyone. So it's been an incredible group and community swell of effort to diversify the outdoors. I mean, we just did an event in Rocky Mountain National Park for a couple hundred people, getting a couple hundred people outdoors in a national park for the first time in their lives. And I think that that is beautiful and that is so worth it. So that's the outdoor stuff.
Whenever we have a special guest as yourself on the podcast, we ask them to take the California Questionnaire. It's kind of like a series of lightning
Gosh,
round questions about your
yes.
favorite things about the state. So, Kevin Costner has taken it. Cheech Marin has taken it as well. So are you up for it?
I am very down and I will never compare to Kevin Costner, but here we
Oh,
go.
well, we'll see. I have faith in you. Okay, so here we go. Who or what is your greatest California love?
Mother Nature, duh.
What is the biggest misperception about Californians?
Of Californians, I think the biggest misconception is that they're not outdoor people. They are outdoor people. Yeah, I think there's a lot more Californians I've met that are way more connected to the outdoors than I would ever think.
Okay. What is the stereotype that most holds true?
Ooh, everyone's a little gay.
What is your favorite Golden State splurge?
Um, any Asian food in San Francisco?
Okay, now it's time for a road trip. Where are you going?
I would say that I am going on a day hiking trip in San Francisco because there's so much incredible hiking that you can do. Specifically, I would do the Dipsy Trail, which is right outside of San Francisco, up on Mount Tam. And I would do that and I would choose a day hike because then you can come back to the city right afterwards and you can go to the inner sunset and you can eat the most delicious Asian food you'll ever have in your life. And then you can sleep in your own bed. And again, for me, that's redefining outdoorsy because it's not just when I backpack 15 miles in a day and sleep in a tent. That's fun, but so is a day hike, and that matters.
That's great. And I think I might have an inkling of where we're going to go with this answer. If you could decree an official state culinary experience, what would it be?
It would honestly be that we need to eat more food outside.
Okay.
For real. I think that food tastes better outside. I think we need to up our charcuterie. So I would say that charcuterie must pass a like 9 out of 10 score, and we should be eaten outside.
What is your favorite way to play in California?
Outside and with friends. I really think that the outdoors are better with friends. I also think the power of an invitation is so powerful, right? Like, why not invite our friends to join us and do our favorite things outdoors? And that can
Mhm.
change someone's life.
Where would you go for the ultimate shopping spree in California?
Oh my gosh. The grocery store in Yosemite National Park because they carry Its, which, I mean, if anyone here is listening from California, you know how good an It is. And it's made in California. And it is an ice cream sandwich that has two oatmeal cookies and ice cream in the inside, and it's covered in chocolate. I would do a shopping spree at that grocery store, and I would buy 1,000 Its and I'd hand them out in the park.
Oh my God, you'd be the most popular person, I think.
Well, I already am, so
I
I'd
know.
be.
I was about to.
I'm kidding.
What-
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
All right. How about best California song?
Best California song. Oh my gosh. I purposely didn't pre-plan answers here.
Oh, good. No, we want them all right off the top of your
No.
head.
I would say right now the best California song is Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan because that song is about, being who you are and embracing who you are and doing that in West Hollywood in California. And I think while she might prefer West Hollywood in California, I prefer a forest. My Pink Pony Club is the forest, but I would say that song.
It's great. Can you share your favorite hidden gem in the state?
Honestly, I would say Tree People, which is this incredible outdoor system of hiking trails in the middle of LA. It's incredible. It's managed again by that nonprofit called Tree People. And it is amazing because anyone can go. It's open to the public. They do incredible education, especially for youth on site. They have a little outdoor stage, so there's incredible music that comes through. And it is just amazing how accessible they're making getting outdoors in the middle of a big city.
How would your California dream day unfold?
My California dream day would start by unzipping a tent. And then after unzipping a tent, I get very hungry very fast. So I would need an immediate breakfast. So I would make breakfast for myself on my little camp stove, and I'd look out at some beautiful vista in California, probably in the Eastern Sierras. And then I would probably slap 10 mosquitoes dead on my body because as beautiful as the Eastern Sierras are, those mosquitoes are a and then I would hike and I would get tired and I would eat more food, specifically refuel with peanut M&Ms because duh. And then I would hike some more and then I would eat some more food. And then I would have an incredible conversation with some of my best friends that I'm out there with because nature is better with friends. And then I would go to sleep because hiking tires me out. And people think that my ankles struggle because of high heels, but really my ankles struggle because a backpack, when you're backpacking, is heavy as hell. So that would be my dream California day.
That sounds amazing. Such great answers. Thank you so much for sharing some of your favorites with us. I mean, we're out of time right now, but before we let you go, what's next on your to-do list? I mean, based on everything we've heard today, I'm guessing it's something really fabulous.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am going on tour this fall. I'm opening for Sammy Ray and the Friends and doing my music, and we're playing unbelievable venues, and we're actually literally playing shows in California. Like we're doing San Francisco and LA and San Diego. So you can look out for those shows and see me this fall. That's what's next. And then after that is sleep.
In heels.
Falling asleep in heels. Yeah, why not? Here we
That's
are.
great. Well, Patty, this has been so amazing. I've learned so much, and I can't wait to see your next outdoor adventure. Thank you so much for joining us on California Now.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Shout out California. I love you.
Pattie Gonia is a drag queen and environmental activist. You can follow her on Instagram at Pattie Gonia or visit her website, pattiegonia.net. That's PATTIEGONIA.net. This is California Now.